we are applying the tools of philosophy to thinking about money and economic value. Now, this to me is a bit like maybe some of you in your 7th grade English class or something like this. We're given an assignment where you were asked to use Aristotle's theory of tragedy in the Poetics in order to analyze Oedipus Rex. I don't know if you've ever had that assignment. Now, of course, where does Aristotle get his theory of what tragedy is? Well, he gets it from a reading of Aristotle's of Sophocles' Oedipus Rex, right? That's where the theory, Aristotle just says, Oedipus is the perfect tragedy. Here's how it works. That's what a tragedy is. Okay, and then you have a kind of school child assignment to apply that theory and show how Oedipus is a tragedy. But at the end of the day, all you've shown is that the Oedipus has the same structure as the Oedipus, right? I mean, there's a circularity to it. So what I want to suggest is that when we try to apply the tools of philosophy to thinking about money and economic value, we're doing something no less ridiculous, okay? No less circular. Because in fact, as Seifert argues, these concepts are developed out of an anxiety about the rise of money and monetary exchange in the classical Greek Aegean, okay? So money is disrupting things, and money introduces the problem about the difference between appearance and reality. And it demands that we ask, well, what is it? If money creates relations of quality between things that are different from one another, well, how does it do that? There must be something, there must be some substance behind it that is the reality of what is going on. And this is what it is the goal of philosophy to do. And so what Seifert shows you is the way that you know, there's these various stages that he analyzes, and Parmenides kind of critiques his predecessors, but repeats them in other ways. But the whole point is to find the unifying principle that lies behind the nominal. Philosophy itself is a coping mechanism because you're anxious about money, and it tries to soothe your anxiety by showing you that there really is a grounding to what appears to be an arbitrary nominal reality, right? There's this surface that must be a deception, and it tries to reassure us that there is something behind it that anchors it, and that is the truth that is independent of what looks like, well, a kind of merely contingent, ungrounded play of signs in the realm of the nominal. Okay. Now, but what's curious about this, and Seifert kind of gets at this, is that it involves a denial of common sense. It involves a denial of the reality of what is immediately in front of us, and the assertion that instead what is really real is something that we can't see and that can only be revealed to us by the use of reason. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about what is reason. What is meant by this? Okay, so the self-conception of Western philosophy is that it is, well, it is the kind of knowledge that we have through the pursuit of reason or of rationality. What does that word mean? Well, there's the Greek word logos, which you may know, meaning word, has a significance in Christian theology also, is translated by the Latin word ratio, which is the meaning of ratio. Okay, so a logos and a ratio, these translate one another, and they have the meaning that we have for them. So logos being the meaning of logic, ratio, rationality, and ratio has the sense of a proportion. Okay, and notice this is what Aristotle grounds his entire theory of ethics on. He says justice is a proportionate relationship, and that's what it means. So we need to make ratios in order to think about justice, says Aristotle. But the fundamental meaning of both of these words, logos and ratio, if you don't believe me, you can look up a dictionary. Okay. The most immediate concrete meaning is an account book. Okay. It is an accounting. It is a balance sheet. So all of Western philosophy is based upon the idea that the best kind of thinking is the kind of thinking that is like accountants do. that thinks in terms of ratios. Okay, and that is what reason is. Okay, so it's for this reason. Now, okay, so what is an account book? What's the purpose of an account book? Well, the purpose of an account book is to tell a story, is to justify, okay, where things came from and where they went. Okay, because the purpose of keeping accounts is to protect yourself from the accusation that you have embezzled that with which you were entrusted. Okay, so in the Athenian government, there's these officials, and at the end of their term of office, they have to provide an accounting to their successors in order to explain, what's in the treasury. And so, so an accounting means to tell a story to someone who could punish you about why they shouldn't punish you due to the presence or absence of wealth. Okay, so the master comes back and says, where's my chickens? And you say, well, I sold the chickens. And what does the master say? He says, well, where's the money? Right? And so that's why I keep accounts. I say, well, the chickens left and the money came in. And it's the fact that the chickens left justifies the fact that the money came in, and I can account for it. And so now I can say, well, the master can't punish me for the fact that I don't have his chickens, because what have I done? Well, I've merely transformed the chickens into something that is qualitatively different but quantitatively equal, which is an amount of money that the chickens are worth. Okay. So I'm trying to show you that the fundamental image, what Deleuze would call an image of thought of Western philosophy, is the idea of a balance sheet, or of a scale in which things balance and are made equal to one another. Now, what I try to suggest in my piece is that when we begin by taking this theory of money masquerading as metaphysics in Western philosophy and apply it to money and say, this really is how money works, and then we try to theorize from there, right? This is where the whole theory of Marxism begins. It says, yes, money does really work the way that Aristotle says that it works. It commensurates these things, etc., and so forth. Aristotle couldn't find the theory of value because he thought everybody was unequal. So I hope you noticed in Aristotle, the reason that we need money is because people are unequal. Aristotle just says this, right? He says human society is founded on inequality. It's a constitutive part of it. And so we need money to make sure that not everybody gets the same thing, because that would be unjust. It would be equality would be unjust, right? This is a fundamental postulate of Aristotle's ethical theory. Marx takes all of that, except that he says, well, now we have the idea that everybody's equal, except that this appearance disguises the reality of exploitation, and I'm now going to excavate this for you in the way that you're surely more or less familiar with. Okay, but the problem is, what if we've taken this Cope story about what money is from ancient Greek philosophy, we've then applied it to money, assume that that's the real story about money, and then we try to go from there. Well, what if that first step was the mistake? This is what I'm suggesting in my piece. What if the mistake is to think that equality in exchange is, well, what if it's a mistake not only to think that equality in exchange is a correct description of the phenomenology of the market, but not only that, but it's actually impossible. It's a reductio ad absurdum of the market. And moreover, what is it doing? Well, it's obscuring a relationship of power that structures the market, okay? So here's where the power comes in. It's obscuring a relationship of power that structures the market. And this is the relationship between the dealer market and everybody else, which is essentially the relationship between money and everything else, which is a tension rather than being a representation, okay? It's not the case that money just represents something that is going on behind it and we can look through money, but rather there's an active difference and a tension between money and everything else, and this is part of what structures the market. And it's also a social conflict about the price of liquidity.